Welcome to Pete's World of Poisonous Plants. This is the first episode of a three-part journey into pure botanical evil. The story of the Gympie-Gympie bush, also known as the devil's toilet paper. When most people think of Australia, they picture snakes, spiders, and the occasional crocodile with an attitude problem. But plants? They rarely make the fear list. Well, they should. Because this unassuming green leaf doesn't just sting, it tortures. It's the kind of plant that makes even Crocodile Dundee look for the nearest exit. So come with me, down under, into the rainforest where everything looks lush and lovely, until it touches you back. Here, even the gentlest brush against a leaf can have you crying into your lager for years. Deep in the dripping green heart of Australia's, northern Queensland's rainforest, there's a plant that looks innocent enough. Broad, heart-shaped leaves glisten with dew. Sunlight dances on their surface. You could almost call it beautiful, until you touch it. This is Dendrocnide moroides, the Gympie-Gympie, or as it's politely nicknamed, the devil's toilet paper. Long before Europeans hacked their way through this jungle, Aboriginal peoples already understood its wrath. In the Kabi-Kabi and Gubbi-Gubbi languages, there were words that meant, look, but don't touch. They warned children that certain trees could sting the very wind itself. Hunters would carve marks into nearby trunks so no one would ever forget where the danger lived. They told stories of forest spirits who punished carelessness, myths that doubled as field guides for survival. When the British arrived in the late 1800s, they had no such wisdom. Explorers in starched uniforms plunged into the rainforest with the confidence of men who had never properly met Australia. One of them brushed a strange leaf aside and screamed loud enough to make the parrots scatter. Within moments, his skin blistered. By nightfall, he was delirious. Local guides, of course, recognized the work of the stinging tree and probably muttered something along the lines of, "Told you so." Reports soon followed. Horses bolted in terror, dogs howled and hid, and pack animals flung their loads into the scrub. A single brush from a leaf could cripple a man. Even the dead, dried leaves retained their sting for months. One unfortunate naturalist once kept a specimen in a pressed plant collection, until he discovered, painfully, that time offers no mercy. More than a century later, that lesson returned in spectacular fashion. In a quiet herbarium, a modern botanist opened an old leather-bound volume from the late 1800s. Inside lay a flattened Gympie-Gympie leaf, labeled in elegant handwriting by some forgotten collector. When the page turned, a faint puff of dust rose, and with it, 100 years of vengeance. Within seconds, the researcher felt that familiar, searing burn. The tiny hairs, invisible to the eye, had waited like glass hypodermic needles, venom still intact. A specimen that had slept for generations sprang back to life, delivering the same agony its ancestor once dealt in the wild. The scientist dropped the book, swore loud enough to rattle the archives, and spent the rest of the day nursing a hand that throbbed as if the rainforest itself had bitten back. Tests later confirmed it. The Gympie-Gympie's venom peptides can survive for decades, perhaps even centuries, perfectly preserved inside those tiny silica needles. Most libraries worry about paper cuts. This one had a botanical landmine hidden in its pages. Back in the early days, though, there were no such warnings. Colonial scientists treated the plant like any other curiosity. They approached with tweezers, thick gloves, and a whole lot of bravado, cutting samples as if courage could stop chemistry. The hairs, each one a hollow, glass-like syringe, went straight through wool and skin alike. Some researchers wore mosquito veils and heavy coats in 30-degree heat. Others used bayonets tied to sticks. Despite all the theatrics, accidents were inevitable. One biologist in the 1940s described the sting as immediate, intense, and utterly unrelenting, adding that if this plant were a weapon, it would be banned by the Geneva Convention. Under a microscope, its structure looks deceptively elegant. Thousands of crystalline needles, each loaded with a clear venom. On contact, the tip snaps off, injecting its payload directly into the skin. The nerves flare like live wires. The burn rises, peaks, and refuses to fade. Rain, cold air, even a passing breeze can reawaken the pain for weeks or even months. Victims liken it to being electrocuted, burned with acid, and stung by hornets. all at once. Some never truly recover. Years later, they still feel phantom jolts, a reminder that this plant doesn't forgive or forget. It leaves behind what scientists politely call chronic neural sensitization and what everyone else just calls hell. Farmers learned quickly to burn any patch that dared sprout near their cattle. Postal riders abandoned their mailbags after a single brush with its leaves. Dogs that sniffed it once never went near it again. Even insects give it a wide berth, a rare example of universal common sense. By the early 1900s, the Gympie-Gympie had become a macabre legend among botanists. It was the plant you dared your colleagues to study. University collections stored specimens behind glass with skull and crossbones labels. One assistant famously quit after his first week, declaring, "It's not worth the science," and you can hardly blame him. But curiosity is a stubborn disease. If something can cause that much pain, surely it must hide a powerful secret, right? Researchers began to wonder if its venom could lead to new painkillers, a perverse sort of logic, searching for mercy inside torment. Today, the plant is cultivated only in secure facilities. Scientists handle it with tongs and face shields, harvesting it under filtered air because even drifting hairs can sting. A single wrong move turns the lab into a very unpleasant emergency room, and still, the Gympie-Gympie fascinates. It's evolution's masterpiece of deterrence, elegant, efficient, and utterly merciless. In a country already boasting crocodiles, snakes, spiders, and jellyfish that can bite or sting you and kill you within hours, this unassuming green leaf somehow manages to top them all. It might not kill you, but you'll probably wish you were dead. You have to admit, that's almost impressive. So the next time someone tells you to stop and smell the flowers, remember there's a corner of Australia where stopping could be your worst mistake. This isn't a plant you admire, it's one you survive. In the next episode, we'll meet the soldier who didn't, a man whose tragic brush, or rather wipe, with the Gympie-Gympie during World War II turned myth into horror and earned the plant its devilish nickname. Until then, thank you for watching. Keep your curiosity cautious, your sleeves rolled down, and whatever you do, never, ever reach for the devil's toilet paper. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more tales from the wilder side of our world.